Hey, what's up, Tetsubo? This is a video response to Tetsubo's pondering about gods and fantasy role-playing settings. Um, and he was discussing about in fantasy role-playing games, the gods are very much real. They're very much physical, and they have interaction with some of their followers or other mortals on the plane, and he was asking if this would if the gods being physical would how would that would affect religion. um, would there be more religious wars because the gods were physically real? And this is a subject I've pondered before in the past in campaign building, and the main questions I had to ask myself is that most fantasy role-playing games have a cosmology of multiple gods. They're polytheistic, and in the real world, polytheism, died out. Not completely died out, but for the most part in the Western world, it died out a few thousand years ago, and most fantasy role-playing games draw from a time of the Dark Ages, or the Medieval Ages, or the Gothic Age, or whatever, Gothic era, Renaissance. When in those times, monotheism was pretty much, not monotheism, polytheism was pretty much dead, and monotheism had taken over. So simply relating a polytheist paragon of gods to a medieval setting takes a little imagination itself, because it never really happened in the real world. Though you could say that, sure, if your campaign setting resembles ancient Greece or ancient Rome or ancient Scandinavia, or you could run a campaign setting that would run very close to the real world, and the technology that was available to those eras when those gods were being worshipped in those areas. For me, I like to draw my campaign settings off of my fantasy campaign settings off of medieval times. And in medieval times, religion was very, very much part of everyone's life. Very, very much. It dominated people's lives in medieval times and the mid-ages. And it was something that people were killing each other over. They're still killing each other over today. But the church was seen as the highest part of education, where clergy members were educated, and those were the learned men. Often people didn't even know how to write or read, and were illiterate. And in most fantasy role-playing games, people can read and are not illiterate. At least the player characters tend to be. So I don't think there's really any wrong way to play the influence of the gods in your fantasy role-playing game. I think you can handle it however you want, but for me, thinking about how much faith these people had in the medieval times in God, and how much of a role it did really play in their lives, I would think that if they had tangible evidence consistently that the gods were appearing physically, I think that would increase their faith in I think that would increase their, what's the word I'm looking for, zealousness in their belief of God. For me, I have seen things that have challenged my belief in reality, and simply seeing those things changed my outlook on life and how I interact with other people. I've talked about briefly in other videos. I was investigated by MUFON. That was a big part of my life. for possibly seeing aliens. And I had said in other videos that when you see aliens, kind of all the division in the human race kind of doesn't mean a whole lot. You know, these things are a lot different than even. I hate to say that. That's what I'm about to say, but whatever I saw when I saw it, it was a lot different than me and like anybody else I know. And the division was so great that my perspective in life and point of view, my experiences as a human being, have more in common with someone in the Tea Party than I did with these beings that I saw. So I imagine that if people were seeing actual deities in front of their face, that would be pretty life-changing and would directly affect their lives. However, Tetsubo, I don't think there's any wrong way to handle this. I don't think there's a right answer. But for me, I think that their influence would be greater than it even was in medieval times when monotheism ruled Europe, and that there would be more religious wars. But again, I don't think there's any wrong way to handle this. It's a great vid, great topic. I'm sure I have some more thoughts in it because it's something I have thought about a lot in my campaign settings, and maybe something will come to me later and I'll comment on it. All right, later on, gamers.